boy Jew coming at you guys with a quick impromptu live. I'm actually going live from my phone for the very first time, going live through YouTube. Normally I'm on my StreamYard, but I wanted to try something different, do a quick impromptu video, and talk a little bit of Falcons football with you guys. As you guys know, training camp is right around the corner. So I'm very excited that next week all of the players will be at training camp. I believe this week the rookies started training camp, but next week the veterans will join the rookies for training camp. So I got kind of want to just do a quick impromptu live, talk to you guys a little bit about some Falcons football. I know you guys are not expecting me to be live, so if you haven't hit that subscribe button, or if you haven't hit that notification bell, you definitely want to hit that notification bell, because I'm going to be doing a lot more impromptu live videos, especially now that the summer is kind of wrapping up. As you guys know, I live in Orlando, Florida. So, my wife's a teacher and the kids are getting ready to go back to school. And my son, he was actually playing basketball in a summer league, but his league is getting ready to wrap up. So I'm going to be doing a lot more lives and impromptus and things of that nature to chat Falcons football with you guys. I have a lot more new things coming this season. As you guys know, me and the heavy hitters, we normally go live and do our thing, do the post game shows, and also do the heavy hitter shows, like where we talk about the upcoming week's games and giving our prediction and our keys to victory and things of that nature. But I just wanted to jump on here. You guys let me know in the chat, give me a thumbs up or something to let me know you guys can hear me. But like I said, I just want to do a quick impromptu live and chat with you guys for a little bit. Talk about this Atlanta Falcons team. I'm really excited about this Atlanta Falcons team. If you guys haven't seen the title already of the video, basically in the title, I basically just asked the question: is this the deepest Atlanta Falcons team, or one of the deepest Atlanta Falcons team ever? Personally, since I've been an Atlanta Falcons fan, I've been a fan since 2000, 2001 when Michael Vick was drafted. Personally, I think that this is one of the deepest Atlanta Falcons rosters that I've actually seen since I've been a fan of the Atlanta Falcons. Usually we have either a really deep offense or a really good defense, but we never really had a balance of a really good offense and a really good defense. Since 2016 or 2012, those are the two teams that kind of stand out to me: 2012, 2016, and 2017. Those were the years that, to me, we had really good rosters as far as depth. In 2016, we had a really deep team. We had a lot of good rookies on that team. One of the better draft class out of the Thomas Dimitroff era, with Deion Jones, Keanu Neal. Those guys kind of came in and hit the ground running. Devondre Campbell. Those guys were starters on that Super Bowl team. You had Grady Jarrett, who was in his second season with our Falcons. Vic Beasley, who was in his second season. So we had a lot of young talent on that roster. And personally, to me, I really think that since the 2016, 2017 team, or the 2012 team that had, Matt Ryan, had Tony Gonzalez, had Michael Turner, Roddy White. To me, that was one of our deeper teams as well. Mud Duck at that center position. That was a really deep team as well. On defense, you had guys like Sean Weatherspoon. I believe that year we had Brent Grimes, who actually got hurt. We had William Moore, or Willie Moe, Thomas Deku. So we really had a lot of depth in that 2012 team as well. John Abraham was on that team. So that was one of our deeper rosters as well. I see someone in the chat said 98-99 was good balance as well. Yeah, 98-99, I wasn't a fan of the Falcons then, but I know that 98 team was really good as well. Jamal Anderson. And I know that they had a litany of guys on that roster as well. Even though they didn't have a lot of household name type players, that was a really good Falcons team as well. And I know they won a lot of games. I think they won like 14-2 or something like that. So I know that 98 team was one of the better rosters as well. Ray Buchanan. And I did do my research. I do know about that 98 team as well that went to the Super Bowl against Denver. But I definitely think that this team, this is the most excited I've been about a Falcons team heading into the season. I'll probably say since like 2016, 2017. This is the most depth that I'll say that we've had, especially on the defensive side of the ball, as far as having household names. When I think about that 2012 team with John Abraham on the opposite side of him, he had guys like Corey Bierman, who was on the opposite side on the defensive line. So I really think that this is the deepest defensive line and the deepest roster that I can remember the Atlanta Falcons having. And I do want to say what's up to you guys as well. D Sloan, what's going on? John St. Clair, what's happening, man? Edward, what's going on? I appreciate you guys. And Breeses, Crisp, I appreciate you guys giving me the thumbs up as well. You guys let me know how the audio is. Like I said, this is my first time going live through my phone directly through YouTube, but I did want to give it a try. Good news is I can see you guys, see you guys in the chat and things of that nature, which is really good. But you guys, let me know if you enjoy these impromptus. Let me know how it actually looks. From my phone, it looks like when I do my normal videos. Normally, I do my phone. I mean, do my videos from my phone as well. But I kind of want to get you guys thoughts as well on teams that you guys thought were really deep, because I know a lot of you guys possibly have been Falcons fans longer than I've been a Falcons fan. Like I said, I've been a fan now for about 23 years, because it's 2023, so time flies. But yeah, I've been a fan since Michael Vick was here, and to me, this is one of the deepest teams. I know in 20, I think it was 2004, or it was either 2004, 2005, when the Falcons went to the NFC Championship game with that Michael Vick team. That team was pretty deep as well. We had guys like Warwick Dunn. You had guys on that team that was pretty good as well. But to me, that wasn't that deep of a roster, if I remember correctly. We didn't really have a lot of good wide receivers on that roster. It was mainly like a running team with TJ Duckett, Warwick Dunn. We really didn't have a lot of weapons outside of Algie Crumpler in the passing game. You had guys like Brian Finneran, but I really don't remember. I think we had a guy like wide receiver named Dez White at the time, but we really didn't have a lot of depth at that wide receiver position. That team was kind of a ground and pound type team, and they played really solid defense. Guys like Rod Coleman on that defense, guys like Jonathan Babineau. I think he was on that team, if I'm not mistaken, in 2005. But we really didn't have, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Patrick Kearney might have still been on the team as well, and Brady Smith. Those were two defensive ends. We had two bookend type defensive ends we had on that roster. And I'm really not too sure of I don't remember the linebackers on that roster. I think Keith Brookins was still on the team, but I don't remember outside of him if Chris Draft, I don't know if Chris Draft was on that roster as well. But just with that being said, yeah, man, I really think that this Atlanta Falcons team this year has a chance to be special. I really think that this team doesn't have many weaknesses. Looking at this roster, I can't really look at one position group and say like that we really struggling at that position. Now, we are really young at certain spots on this roster, but I really think that they did a good job of kind of mixing and matching veterans, adding guys on this roster, adding guys like Jesse Bates, adding guys like Calais Campbell, adding Eddie Goldman back to this roster at that defensive tackle position. Like, I really think that this is going to be a really, really good Atlanta Falcons team. So, with that being said, I do want to say what's up to ATL Leo. What's going on, man? And Jonathan Rozier or Jonte Rozier, I appreciate you joining as well. Yeah, I know you guys are not used to me being live, but this is kind of just an impromptu. So you guys let me know if you enjoy, me just popping up on you guys and going live. What's up to my bro, Mad Mike? What's going on, man? I appreciate you joining as well. But yeah, man, like I said, man, I really think that this Atlanta Falcons roster have a chance to be special. I definitely think that this is going to be a playoff team. I seen Jamal Anderson put on Twitter, and my boy Mike shared it on his channel as well. I think he did like a short about Jamal Anderson, who was on that 98 Dirty Birds team, that states that he thinks that this Falcons team is definitely going to make the playoff make the playoffs and maybe make a deep playoff push. But yeah, with that being said, you guys, I want to get you guys' thoughts. If you guys got some questions, y'all can drop that in the chat as well. I got off work and just wanted to talk a little chat a little Falcons football with you guys. But like I said, man, I really think that this team, has the depth that I haven't seen in many Atlanta Falcons, just over the years of me being a fan. I can't really think back on many teams that I could say had this type of depth on it. And I'm really excited about these guys at training camp. It's going to be a lot of great position battles. I kind of did a couple videos where I talked about a couple position battles that is going to take place. Guys that are going to be competing, like D. Alford, going to be competing for that nickel cornerback position. Um, you got guys on the defensive line, the Arnold Ebiketis, the D'Angelo Malones that can continue to develop, the Ogundejis. Like I said, man, it's going to be really interesting. You got Bud Dupree that we added to this roster as a veteran, a guy who's really good at getting after the passer. Man, we have a lot of talent. But John Sinclair says, let's see, I think the wheels will have to come off of this Falcons team not to win the division. Most definitely, yeah, the wheels will really have to come off. Like, we'll have to have a lot of injuries, knock on wood. We would definitely have to have like a crazy amount of injuries for this team to me not to make the playoffs, or something crazy to happen for this team to miss the playoffs. And what's going on, Michael? I appreciate you joining as well. Put the fire in the chat. And ATL Leo says, who is your breakout player on defense? Jew Mines is AK-47. That's a good one. Arnold Ebiketie is definitely a good player to have as a breakout player. I really think that he is going to be a guy that really has a big season. But my breakout player on this team, I'll say this season, my breakout player would be Grady Jarrett. Believe it or not, a lot of people might think like that wouldn't be like a breakout because Grady Jarrett has been a great player for a number of years. But I was talking to Mike and talking to K Styles off air, and I was telling them that I really think that Grady Jarrett, with him having Calais Campbell on this roster with him, I really think this is going to be the first season that Grady Jarrett gets 10 plus sacks in the season, because now he doesn't really have to play that nose position. You can move Grady up and down the line. And because we have Ryan Nielsen, a coach that kind of likes to run stunts and things of that nature, is with his linebackers and with his defensive line, I really think that Grady Jarrett, it's going to be hard to double team him because you can move him around on the defensive line. So teams are not going to really know where to expect Grady Jarrett to be lined up. And I really think that that's going to create a lot of one-on-one matchups, and especially having a guy like Calais Campbell, who's 6'8", 300 pounds, and having guys like David Onyemata, the guys that can really play that nose position, guys like Eddie Goldman. I really don't think that Grady's going to play a ton of nose. He might play a little bit at that one tech position or play a little bit inside, but I really expect them to move him around. So I really think that Grady's going to have a big year and have a breakout year. I know that that's kind of like, taking the chalk as far as, Grady Jarrett being like one of the guys that's already a really good player, but I think he's going to have the best season of his career. And what's going on, Tony Wright? He says, good evening, Jew. How are you, sir? Good evening, man. I appreciate you joining me. And I think that's Sensei is how you say your name, Sensei G. What's going on, man? I appreciate you joining as well. And KFJ, he says, pray for Bryce because of Calais gets his hands on him in week 1. Yeah, I think Bryce going to have his hands full in week 1 with our defense in general. I think a lot of quarterbacks are going to have their hands full with this defense. I really think that this defense has a chance to be a top 10 defense, to be honest with you guys. The way that Ryan Nielsen runs his defense, with him being a very aggressive play caller and all of the depth that we have on this team, I really feel like what's hurt the Falcons in years past and even hurt a guy like Grady Jarrett is he would get tired throughout the game because he had to play a whole lot of snaps. And this season, having depth is important because you keep your guys fresh. We literally can do like a whole hockey line shift, bring in a whole new defensive line at times because you have so many guys that can play that you can actually give Grady Jarrett a whole series off or give him a breath, allow him to get out the game, go over and get some Gatorade. And because we're going to be a team that's going to run the ball and have that time of possession on our side, you're not going to see these guys playing a whole lot of snaps, especially a guy like Grady Jarrett, who's pretty much had to play. Usually he's playing like 90% of the snaps during games, especially the last two seasons, because we really didn't have the depth. We didn't have guys we could bring in to spell him. And because he was like the ultimate playmaker on our team, we really couldn't afford to have Grady Jarrett off the field. Big Ant, what's going on, man? I appreciate you joining as well. And let's see here. Everybody in the chat, please hit that like button for your boy. I appreciate you guys. It says we got 19 watching, so I really appreciate each and every one of you guys. But like I said, man, if you guys want to drop, your questions in the chat, this kind of is like a Q&A impromptu live. I really didn't really have like anything, written down, which usually I don't. I just come right off the dome. So if you guys got a question, you guys let me know what you guys, you know, let me know what you guys are thinking about this upcoming season. I kind of just wanted to talk to you guys in general, just about the upcoming season because training camp is like right around the corner next week. And shouts out to my wife in the chat. She says, "Do you think Desmond Ritter will be featured on the Netflix quarterbacks next season?" Yeah, man. If you guys didn't check out that quarterbacks on Netflix, that series with Marcus Mariota, Kirk Cousins, and Pat Mahomes, man, you missed a treat. Yeah, that's a really good show. I really think that Desmond Ritter, I hope he's on the next season of quarterbacks. Is actually executively produced by the great Peyton Manning, a former or Hall of Fame quarterback of the Colts and formerly of the Denver Broncos. So I definitely think if you guys haven't had a chance to check out that Netflix series Quarterbacks, you definitely should check it out. But I hope Desmond Ritter's on that series next year on quarterbacks because I really think he's gonna have a season to remember. So hopefully he's one of the three quarterbacks that they choose for next season. And Tony Wright says Grady Jarrett will not be playing any nose. He may play a little D tackle when we are in 4-3 looks, but at the nose tackle position, no David Onyemata, no Eddie Goldman, and or I say this David Onyemata, Eddie Goldman, Timmy Horn will all be play nose. Oh yeah, I think they will. I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think Grady's gonna play a whole lot of nose. I think at times he will. Like if we're rushing four and it's like passing down, I could see them putting Grady on the inside and then maybe having outside linebackers like Bud Dupree on the outside. On the other side, Arnold Ebiketie, or on the other side, D'Angelo Malone, or even like a Michael Walker or Caden Ellis, having one of those guys lined up on the outside as well, because I really think that our linebackers are going to be used a lot this season as with rushing the passer. Left guard, Breezy Chris, or Breezes Chris says left guard. Who do you think starts this season there? I really think that's going to end up being Matt Hennessy, and I said that in a video that I actually did. I think Matthew Bergeron, who we drafted out of Syracuse, has a chance to possibly, excuse me, has a possibly could start as well. But I really think that it's going to come down to Hennessy being a veteran, Hennessy kind of already being familiar with the play calls and things of that nature, him being familiar with the starters because he played a little bit of guard last season when Elijah Wilkerson went out with injury. So I expect Hennessy to win that guard position, but it wouldn't surprise me if Bergeron, if Matthew Bergeron actually, if he actually won that starting position as well, because he's one of those guys that's really good as well. Let's see. Tony Wright says, actually, training camp has started across the league for rookies. Only at 65% of the teams had their rookies report this past Tuesday. Right. Yeah, I know the rookies are at training camp, but I don't think the veterans, correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, are the veterans at training camp? I think they start next week, but I know the rookies are at training camp already. And Kev J says corner is pretty deep. Any surprise cuts you think? I think Armstrong and Hall ultimately get the axe. Yeah, that's a good question. And I actually had somebody ask me about this um, during, I think it was like on one of the comments left on one of my videos. And they asked about Darren Hall. Is he going to be one of the guys cut? And I could definitely see Darren Hall or Cornell Armstrong being cut because you got to think about it. We got on this roster AJ Terrell, Jeff Okuda, Darren Hall, Cornell Armstrong, Mike Hughes. Who else I'm missing? We have so many guys, man, on this defense as at the cornerback position that I definitely think that Hall or Cornell Armstrong could get cut. I really think that Darren Hall might be the odd man out, to be honest with you guys, because to me, Cornell Armstrong played really well last season, and Darren Hall, he's on the rookie deal. So I definitely could see him getting cut. Yeah, I see that. Trade Flowers, Clark Phillips. Yeah, thank you for putting that in the chat. I couldn't think of all of them, but we have so many weapons that it's hard to even remember everybody. So yeah, like I definitely think that out of the guys that we named, I definitely think the guys that are possibly on the bottom of the totem pole would be Darren Hall, and I think I would choose Cornell Armstrong over Darren Hall, but it's gonna really come down to the preseason games. Whoever balls out in the preseason games is who it's gonna come down to, like that's gonna make the roster. But I do like Trey Flowers a lot because he can play safety as well. So I think Trey Flowers will make the team, and I definitely think that Clark Phillips, he just got drafted, so he's definitely making the team. They're not gonna cut a guy that they just drafted like this season. Said Tony Wright says maybe we can sign Cornell Armstrong to the practice squad, possibly, or Darren Hall to the practice squad, possibly. But yeah, somebody getting cut. Yeah, everybody ain't gonna make this 53-man roster, and that's why I keep saying like this is one of the deepest rosters like that I can remember. Like if you look at the wide receiver position, you got Drake London, you got um, Scotty Miller, JJ Arthega-Whiteside. Um, the guy did a video, Mac Hollins from the Raiders. Yeah, you have a lot of weapons. Frank Darby. Like it's so many, guys that we have on this roster that everybody's not gonna make this 53-man roster. It's gonna be really hard to make this team. And Turner Wright says, I think we are keeping 6 corners, Jew, but I hope we keep 7. Yeah, I don't know how many we're going to keep. I think you got to at least keep about 6 on the roster, not counting one on the practice squad or 1 or 2 on the practice squad. So, and good news is a lot of the times if somebody does get hurt, knock on wood, you usually are able to sign back. If the guy hasn't signed with another team or signed on another practice squad, we might be able to bring some of the guys back if we do have injury. One of the positions I think that we kind of light right now, and probably is one of the biggest question marks on this team, would be the linebacker position, the inside linebacker position, because we didn't bring back Rashaan Evans. So you only really have Troy Anderson, Caden Ellis, and Michael Walker, if I'm not mistaken. I think you have Dorian Etheridge, who was on the practice squad last year. And then I don't know if we still have Nate Landman. I think they cut Nate Landman, but somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if Nate Landman is on this roster still. And Jonte Rozier says, do you think Darby will make the team? No, I think Frank Darby going to get cut, to be real with you. I talked about that a little bit on the Heavy Hitter Show Wednesday night. I think Frank Darby is going to be one of the guys that's going to get the axe because you have guys like what's his name that played with us last year? Cordell Hodge. You have guys like Cordell Hodge on this roster that played with us last year that's really good in special teams, but he's a better wide receiver right now, from my understanding and just from what I've seen. Unless Frank Darby's went and worked on his game in the offseason, Cordell Hodge is a better wide receiver and special teamer. You got guys like Mac Hollins who plays special teams, and then you brought in guys like JJ Arthega-Whiteside who is going to be competing with a guy like Frank Darby that's 6'4", 6'5", 200 plus pounds, and a guy that kind of fits more of this Arthur Smith big wide receiver, block first wide receiver type, deal. Guys that's not afraid to go across the middle. And with us adding guys like Jonnu Smith, Kyle Pitts coming back, having Drake London, and then you have smaller guys like Scotty Miller, who they signed, who's definitely going to make the roster. He's not going to get cut unless he gets injured. Um, I really think Frank Darby is going to be one of those guys that's going to be on a chopping block. I really feel like the only reason he made the team the last couple of years is for development purposes and because we really didn't have the money to bring in any veteran, guys to compete with him. But now that they've brought in these guys that have, these guys are veterans and these guys are, to me, better wide receivers than Frank Darby. They may not be better than him at special teams, but the drop off is not going to be that much where they're going to keep. I don't think that where they're going to keep a Frank Darby just based off him being a good special teamer. And Tony Wright says Nate Landman is still on the roster, and I believe he will make the team. Yeah, Nate Landman is really good, a really good tackler, and he's really good at special teams. So he probably will make the roster. And I heard that his tape is crazy. I didn't get to see his college tape, but somebody stated that a scout stated that his college tape was really, really good. So Tony Wright says, Jew, don't be surprised if Jonnu Smith is our starting tight end and Kyle Pitts will be our starting number 2 wide receiver. Yeah, I think that that's already kind of in the works, to be honest with you guys. Um, I really think when Kyle Pitts, since he's been on the Falcons, he's been kind of like a wide receiver, hybrid tight end type deal. And with Jonnu Smith being here, who's like definitely a number 1 tight end, and he's a guy that's versatile as well. He can split out wide. That's one of the main reasons I'm not really concerned when it comes to like us having pass catchers, having enough pass catchers. I'm really not worried about that because we have all of these hybrid type tight ends that really are wide receivers slash tight ends. So yeah, I'm not really concerned, but I definitely think that Jonnu Smith will possibly be or take the most snaps as far as being like an inline tight end. I think they're going to use Kyle Pitts more of a wide receiver type on the outside. And John Sinclair says, question, why did we get rid of Demir Bird and then sign Scotty Miller, who is the same size and not quite as fast? That's a good question, John Sinclair. I really like that question. That's a really good question because to me, Demir Bird made huge plays for us last year. So I don't know why we let go of Demir Bird. I really think that he played really well. He was one of the unsung heroes of the last year's Falcons team. I mean, he had a big touchdown against the Bengals where he burned them. He had a big touchdown in that first game when we beat the Panthers, and he made plays. Like when all else fails, Demir Bird was a guy that took the top off the defense and a guy that really made plays. So I'm not too sure why we decided to go with Scotty Miller. Now, I do think one thing that Scotty Miller has over Demir Bird is he's played at the highest level as far as he's a Super Bowl champion because he played with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He played with a guy in Tom Brady who is the ultimate professional. So I really think that Scotty Miller can bring some of his toughness to our team, and he definitely also can bring some different things as far as jet sweeps and reverses and things of that nature. And he's just as good as a Demir Bird as far as taking it deep, taking you deep, but taking the top off the defense. But I really think that those two guys are like interchangeable type players, Demir Bird and Scotty Miller. And we have 20 in here, so we got 9 likes. So if you guys can hit that like button for your boy, I appreciate it. But I do thank you guys for joining me, even though this was like an impromptu live. Tech9 Microsoft support team. What's going on, man? I appreciate you joining. He says Kansas City Chiefs won the last Super Bowl. What's your opinion on that? Are you a Kansas City Chiefs fan? I'm a huge Pat Mahomes fan. I think that Pat Mahomes is one of the best quarterback talents, if not the best quarterback talent that I've seen in the NFL in my lifetime. And the Super Bowl goes through Kansas City. So if the Falcons get to the Super Bowl, maybe we'll have to go through the Kansas City Chiefs. But the Kansas City Chiefs are going to have a gauntlet to get through in the AFC. The Miami Dolphins are really good this year. The Buffalo always is pretty good. The Bengals were right there with them again in the AFC Championship game. Joe Burrow, and then teams have improved. The Chargers are really good. Sean Payton is now coaching the Denver Broncos, so that should be a very interesting team as well with Russell Wilson and his experience, him being a Super Bowl champion. So I definitely think that the Chiefs are gonna have they work cut out for them. So if I'm the Falcons, we got to focus on winning our division and winning, the NFC first. But I definitely think that Pat Mahomes is definitely the best quarterback in the NFL, and definitely he's gonna be a player to be reckoned with for years to come. Kevin J says back to the corner conversation really quick. I'm excited to see where we're going. Where we're going. Who's going to be playing more man and not sitting back in zone all game. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I definitely think we're going to play a lot more man coverage, which is going to be definitely going to be good for this Atlanta Falcons team as far as us being able to get pressure on the quarterback. I really think that Dean Pease had no choice but to play a lot of zone because last year, if you guys remember in that Cincinnati game, we were down like our top 3 or 4 cornerbacks. So we lost AJ Terrell, Casey Hayward. They were out. I think Isaiah Oliver wasn't back yet. So we were literally down to like practice squad guys and guys that we got off the street. Like Cornell Armstrong had to be one of the starting corners. Darren Hall had to be a starting corner. And those guys are mainly like your third or fourth best corner on a team on most NFL rosters. So that was kind of one of the reasons why the Bengals cooked us in that game. But I feel like with us adding the depth for the defensive line, with them being able to get home a little bit faster because we have a lot more talent on the defensive line, I definitely think that us, being a more aggressive defense with Ryan Nielsen and him having the weapons to deploy on defense, I really think that um, that's going to make the difference. Tony Wright says number 1 wide receiver Drake London, number 2 wide receiver Kyle Pitts, number 3 Matt Collins, and then Scotty Miller 4. That sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds about right. When Kyle Pitts is not lined up as tight end, I definitely think he'll be the number 2 option. But Matt Collins is a really good number 2 option as well. Yeah, and Johnson Clay, I agree. I think Demir Bird is older than Scotty Miller, so that's another reason they probably got rid of him. But I think it really came down to contracts and whether Demir Bird still wanted to be on the team. To be honest, that comes down to your agent and where the player feels most comfortable playing. So that could have been one of the reasons why they decided to go to Scotty Miller over Demir Bird. But then again, I was surprised they didn't bring back Olamide Zaccheaus because he's the guy who also can kind of take the top off the defense. He's fast as well, and to me, he's been reliable when he was here with our Falcons. Let's see. So we're gonna be on for a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna hop off here. But I just wanted to do a little quick impromptu, so you guys can keep dropping your questions if you have questions. Um, and Tony Wright giving us the breakdown. He says DB AJ Terrell number 1, of course. Jeff Okuda 2, D Alford 3, Mike Hughes 4, Clark Phillips 5, and the 6th spot will be between Darren Hall, Cornell Armstrong, and Trey Flowers. Yeah, I think Trey Flowers is going to be more of a safety / corner. So I think he's going to be a hybrid. So I really think it's going to come down to Darren Hall and Cornell Armstrong. One of those guys might have to be on the practice squad. But if I had to choose today, I'm taking Cornell Armstrong over Darren Hall. And what's going on, William Amy? He says, yes, sir, indeed. I appreciate you joining. And Tony Wright says starting safeties, Richie Grant at strong safety, Jesse Bates at free safety, DeMarco Hellams as the backup strong safety, and Jalen Hawkins as the backup free safety. Yeah, I think that's probably how to go. Yeah, but like I said, man, I really think that this Falcons team is going to be really, really good. I think we're going to shock a lot of people. This team kind of puts me in the mind of that 2016 team because they didn't have big expectations for that 2016 team. The main difference I see between the 2016 Falcons and this 2023 team mainly is the veterans were on the offensive side of the ball, where on this team, it looks like the offense is has the younger players and the defense has the veteran players. If you guys remember in 2016, you had guys like Matt Ryan at the quarterback. You had Julio Jones at the wide receiver position. You had in the backfield Freeman and Coleman, who were veteran guys who had been on the team for a little bit. And then on the defense, you had all of those young starters. You had Debo, Deion Jones. You had Devondre Campbell. You had on the back end Desmond Trufant and Robert Alford. You had guys like Keanu Neal, who was a rookie at the time. You had Ricardo Allen, who was a veteran. But you had a lot of younger guys on the defense. Vic Beasley was like in his second year. So you had a lot of young guys. Grady Jarrett was only in his second year. So I really feel like this team is kind of flipped on its head, where it's the opposite. You have a lot of the younger guys on the offense, like Desmond Ritter, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. And on the defense, you had a veteran guys like Calais Campbell, Grady Jarrett, the guys that kind of been around the block a little bit, Caden Ellis, David Onyemata. So most of our veteran leadership on this team is on the defense. Bud Dupree is a guy who's been in the league for a while now. So I really think that this team is going to be special, but it kind of is like flipped in the opposite, flipped on its head, where you have the veterans on this team on the defensive side of the ball, and you have a lot of up and coming players on the offense. Where in 2016, most of our up and coming players was on the defensive side of the ball, and our veterans or the household name players was on the offense. And let's see here. Big Dog Trill says, "What's up, Jew? Nice to see another Virginian alien out here. Sounds like we became a fan around the same time. I seen them VTech highlights and been a fan ever since." 804-404. Yeah, man, most definitely. Yeah, man, I'm from the 757. Yeah, the Hampton Roads area. So yeah, man, I definitely rep VA. Even though I was born in Chicago, Illinois, and all my family's in Chicago, so I rep Chi-Town as well. But yeah, I grew up in Virginia, so Virginia's home, man. 757, Oscar Smith High School, stand up. And William Amy says, I could see 13-4. Yeah, I think I said 11-6 or 11-5, whatever. I think it's 17 games now. So yeah, so 11-6 or something like that. This team is gonna win no less than 10 games. If this team wins less than 10 games, this year's is definitely a failure. Like this team has um to me, this team should win the division, and this team should make the playoffs. If this team wins less than 10 games, it's a failure, because this team, based off of our roster and on paper, unless injuries or something like that strike, well, you have like a lot of your main guys go down, like what happened, I think, in 2018 with our Falcons, where everybody got injured. Like Keanu Neal went down, Deion Jones went down for a little bit of time. If you have that happen, then that's just the football gods against you. But if you're healthy, I think that this Falcons team definitely has a chance, and definitely should win the division and win 10 plus games. If we win less than 10 games, it's a failure. And let's see. Kevin J says, who gets the first touch on offense outside of Ritter? Of course, I got Pitts. In that first game, if you're saying like the first snap of the game, I really think the first snap is going to go to Bijan Robinson if he's the starter. Either Bijan Robinson, or if it's a pass play, it'll be Drake London. I really think it's going to be Drake London, either on the play action, just crosser, where they just throw it across the middle, and he, does his usual like RPO style fake handoff, quick slant, throw it to Drake London for a quick, 7 to 8 yard gain, or it'll be a handoff to one of the running backs, whoever the starting running back is, which I expected to be Bijan Robinson, but whoever's in the backfield, I definitely can see also getting the first touch of the season. And let's see. Breezes Crispus, what do you see CP's role actually being? CP is the heart and soul of this team. To be honest, I really feel like CP is like one of my favorite players on this Falcons team in general, because to me, he was one of the foundational players for this new regime for both Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith basically formed this offense around CP's the way that CP plays the game. CP just is like Arthur Smith. If Arthur Smith was a player and actually had athleticism, and he could be one player on this Atlanta Falcons team, it would be CP. CP is embodies what Arthur Smith preaches: toughness, a guy who's selfless, a guy who's about the team, a guy who just goes brings his hard hat to work. Is a blue collar type player, but loves the game. And to me, he just embodies everything that Arthur Smith wants on out of a player. So I think CP is like one of the leaders of this team, believe it or not. In the locker room, he'll be one of the leaders on offense. He's actually one of the veterans. As I talked about this being a young team, CP is actually one of the veterans on this offense. So this really is CP is like I said, one of the foundational players that helped breed this winning culture. So I think CP is going to have a bigger role than a lot of people realize. And CP is one of those guys that I think also could be used as a wide receiver. As we're talking about Kyle Pitts being one of those guys that'll be like the number 2 wide receiver. We're forgetting that CP is one of those guys that have been the most versatile players on this team and one of the most productive players on this team. So CP is one of those guys you don't have to worry about. He's definitely going to get his. I think the biggest thing with CP, to be honest with you guys, is him staying healthy. And I really think that with us having all of the guys that he brought in, like the Bijan Robinsons, who's like CP 2.0, or he's like CP Junior, I really think that like he was one of the foundational guys. So I definitely think the CP still gonna have a role on this team, in a big role. And as you guys know, CP is a touchdown magnet. It seems like every time CP touched the ball, he scored a touchdown. And I'm probably wrap it up in about 10 to 15 more minutes. Tony Wright says, Jew, you may not be aware of this, but the last 2 seasons, former Falcons 2017 fifth round tight end Eric Sober developed in Denver as a good number 2 tight end and signed a free agent contract as the Miami Dolphins backup. Oh wow. Yeah, I remember Eric Sobert. Let's see here. ATL Leo says, I say the Falcons are going to sweep the division, Jew. Yeah, if we sweep the division, we're going to be a number 1 seed. If we sweep the division, we're going to be like a 1 or 2 seed. And I'm going to say it right now, if the Falcons get the number 1 seed, we're going to the Super Bowl. That's my prediction. If we win because if we only have 2 games, the division, we'll have the divisional round at home, and then the NFC Championship game at home, we're going to the Super Bowl. Let's see. And John Sinclair says CP is a fire starter. Yeah, CP is definitely a fire starter. He's like I said, he's the lightning on this team. He's the lightning in the bottle. He's the guy that starts the fire, and he's the guy that's been the playmaker for this team. So everything, just like they say, it's Grady's team on the defense. On the offense, this is CP's team, as far as I'm concerned. I know a lot of people are talking about Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, but CP is the elder statesman. He's been here since day 1 with Arthur Smith. He's been the guy in both of those years who was the most productive as far as scoring touchdowns and, being the guy that changed games for us. CP has been that playmaker. So to me, this is CP's team when it comes to the offense. And Tony Wright says, Jew, we will win the division and go 12-5 with the Aints fighting for one of those 3 wild card spots with Detroit, Seattle, Minnesota, and possibly Dallas. I say possibly Dallas because they won't win. Dallas is overhyped and overrated, and we'll go 7-10. I hope so. I can't stand Dallas. My wife's a Dallas fan, but I'm a Dallas hater. I'm like Shannon Sharp. I can't stand the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, to me, are one of the most overrated teams, the most overrated team in the NFL, as I'm concerned. We're always talking about them as America's team and a team that, has all of the Super Bowls, won those 3 Super Bowls in the 90s, but They haven't done anything in about 30 years. So, yeah, I can't stand Dallas. William Amy says CP is MVP. Yes, yeah, CP is different, man. CP is a special athlete and a special player. He has that dog in him. And Tony Rice says, I believe the Falcons would be the number 2 or number 3 seed. Yeah, we definitely have a chance. I really think, like I said, my prediction is if the Falcons are the number 1 seed, they're going to the Super Bowl. If they get the number 2 seed or number 3 seed, they still can go to the Super Bowl, but the road gets a little bit tougher because you got to win 3 playoff games. If you win that, if you be the number 1 seed, that gives you the opportunity to have the bye. You prepare for the next team, and then you automatically win one game. You're in the NFC Championship game, and that makes it a lot easier to get to the Super Bowl. If you guys remember in 2016, I think we only had to win 2 games. We won the divisional game, which I think was against, if I'm not mistaken, who was the divisional round against? Seattle. So I think it was Seattle in the divisional game in 2016, and that game was played at home, and then we played in the NFC Championship game against Green Bay at home. That was really banged up at the time. So yeah, man, I definitely think this Falcons team has a chance to do something special. And let's see. JBM93, do you think Bryce Young's game will translate to the NFL? That's a really good question. I think it will because he is a guy that throws with anticipation. If you watched how he played at Alabama, even though they had great talent, he does a good job of reading the defense. So I think he'll be a really good NFL player. I don't know if he'll be as good as he was in college because college Alabama always has the cream of the crop. The biggest thing that I'm worried about with a guy in Bryce Young is not so much his game translating to the NFL, it's him getting injured. Like I'm really nervous about him getting injured because of his size. I really don't know if he's going to be able to stay healthy, similar to Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray has all of the talent in the world, and he's a pretty good quarterback. He just can't stay healthy because he's so little, and he runs the football a lot. And when he gets hit and those 300-pound men land on him, it doesn't end well when you're only 5 feet, barely 200, 20 pounds or barely 200 pounds. So that's really what scares me about Bryce Young. It's not so much his game translating because he throws the ball with anticipation, which is one of the things that I pay attention to when you're watching a quarterback play. And we seen that with Marcus Mariota last year. He didn't understand that he had to throw the ball because windows close really fast in the NFL. So you have to let the ball go before the guy is even open. You got to let the ball go. And that's something that I think Bryce Young is really good at. Bryce Young is really poised in the pocket. He's not a player that's just going to bolt out of the pocket anytime he feels pressure. He's a guy that'll sit in there and take hits. But what makes me nervous is his body going to hold up when he takes those hits? In college, he held up pretty well, but he had a couple knick-knack injuries in college as well. So that's what scares me as he goes into the NFL where the athletes are bigger, faster, stronger. Is he going to actually be able to stay healthy? Other than that, I think he can make all the throws. He can make deep throws. He can make the short throws. He can make the intermediate throws. He has a strong enough arm. I feel like the biggest question with Bryce Young is, can he stay healthy? That's really my biggest hang up with him. And that's the reason why I feel like the Panthers should have took CJ Stroud. If I were the Panthers, I would have took CJ Stroud because of his size. He was the prototypical quarterback. And when I watched CJ Stroud play against Georgia, who's the best defense or had the best defense in college football, CJ Stroud made it look easy at times against Georgia in that championship game. So I really think that the Panthers made a mistake with taking Bryce Young just for the mere fact that I don't know if his body's going to hold up. And CJ Stroud to me is just as good as an arm talent as far as being able to make throws, throwing in tight windows and stuff like that, making every throw. To me, CJ Stroud can do pretty much everything Bryce Young can do as far as being able to be mobile, run outside the pocket, and also be able to make all the throws. But CJ Stroud, I think, is like 6'4" and 200 plus pounds. So he's going to be able to hold up probably better, a little bit better as far as injury wise than a guy like Bryce Young that's kind of smaller and don't have that same ability. And I said this for years when it comes to quarterbacks and when it comes to wide receivers. Back when guys like AB was in the NFL and he was one of the better players, and when he was at the top of his game with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I used to always say I'm always going to take the bigger, stronger, faster athlete over a smaller player. And trust me, as being a smaller guy, which I'm only about 5'11", um, I'm like the average size, man, 5'11", 5'10". I understand how it is to be underestimated because of your size and stuff like that. But when it comes to the NFL and when it comes to playing up against these better athletes, personally, if I was a GM or a head coach and my money was on the line, or if I was an NFL owner, I'm always going to take a Megatron over or AB or Julio Jones over AB because to me, they just can do more. Julio Jones can block better than an AB because of his size. Megatron can block more and high point the football and do different things that an AB couldn't do. Yes, AB could run, excellent crisp routes, but so could Julio Jones and so could Megatron. They could run just as good as routes as a guy like AB, but they were, 5 inches taller. So, so I'll definitely take, the bigger, stronger, faster athlete any day over a guy that has the skill set but is a smaller athlete. So, that's just how I've always viewed it when it comes to quarterbacks, when it comes to wide receivers. I'm always going to take the athlete like a DK Metcalf over a guy like a Cooper Cup just because of his size and just because to me it's not much that DK Metcalf can't do that a guy like a Cooper Cup or a smaller wide receiver that's just as good can do. I'm always gonna go with the bigger, stronger, faster athlete. That's just me personally. As long as they had a good personality as well. Like if you got a bad personality, or if you're like a cancer to the team, that's one thing. But I'm saying if the player is not, not getting in trouble off the field, he, pretty much is a, an outstanding guy on and off the field. And we're looking at two specimens. We're looking at an AB and we're looking at a Julio Jones or an AB and a Megatron or an AB and a Randy Moss. I'm always going to take the bigger, stronger, faster athlete. That's just me personally. And with that being said, we almost coming close to an hour, so I'm gonna get ready to get up off here in a couple minutes. But if you guys can hit that like button for your boy, if you haven't, definitely share out my content as well. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers and beyond, and I do want to do a couple giveaways and stuff. So once I get to 3,000 subs, I promise you guys I'm gonna do a giveaway. So you guys gotta let me know what y'all want me to give away. Possibly a giveaway, like a hat, Atlanta Falcons hat, because I love collecting the hats. Or I might give away, like if you guys play Madden, I may give away a Madden on PS5 or Xbox. But once I hit 3,000 subs, I'll put on my community tab like what you guys would like me to give away, and I'll do a giveaway. And it probably be like some type of trivia question or something that you got to answer to get. Or whoever gives me the right answer to the trivia question, like DM me on Twitter or something like that, I'll probably give that person the giveaway. So you guys definitely want to stay tuned because we're gonna do a lot of new things this upcoming season, a lot of exciting things. And Kevin J says Calais is a huge and grown man. Yeah, Calais Campbell is 6'8", 300 pounds. Calais Campbell's a whole power forward out here playing football. Let's see. Tony Wright says, here are three players that will join the sack party and have good productive years as backup defensive linemen. Taquan Graham. Yeah, everybody keep forgetting about Taquan Graham returning from injury. Timmy Horn and Zach Harrison, who is Calais Campbell's backup. Yeah, I definitely think all three of those guys definitely have a chance. Like, I don't think all of these guys on the defensive line are gonna make the roster either because we got way too many players on this roster. Tony Wright says Zach Harrison is 6'6", 272 pounds, defensive end. Calais Campbell is 6'8", 307, and is the pinnacle Pro Bowler, or perennial, Pro Bowler, and future first ballot Hall of Famer. You think Zach Harrison isn't going to learn from Calais? No, most definitely. Zach Harrison is going to learn from everybody on this team because Zach Harrison mainly is an edge. He's not even a defensive tackle. Zach Harrison played edge at Ohio State. So he going to learn from Bud Dupree. He going to learn from Grady Jarrett. And he going to learn from Calais Campbell. If he's smart, he going to take nuggets from each player to become a better player if he's smart. Johnson Clay says, wow, Tony Wright, I didn't realize Harrison was that big. Yeah, Harrison is huge. Yeah, that dude is really long, tall, physical. And it's kind of just based upon the type of players that Ryan Nielsen prefers. He prefers bigger, longer, stronger defensive linemen. When Dan Quinn was here, he liked guys that were kind of smaller, fast, off the edge. But with this new regime, if you notice the guys that we brought in on the defensive line, they went for guys that were bigger, stronger, faster. So I definitely expect us to continue to go after those guys that's 6'6" in the draft, 6'5", 6'4", long arms. And those personally, those are the guys that I prefer over the smaller guys, like the guys that we've had in the past. But I really think it's gonna be mix and match because Caden Ellis is not the biggest guy, but he rushes the passer. He's really a linebacker, but plays outside linebacker. He's just really good off bending the edge. So you don't necessarily have to be 6'6" to get after the passer. We've seen guys like Elvis Dumerville, who played with the Broncos and the Ravens, who was smaller but was really good at coming off the edge and bending the corner and rushing the passer. Excuse me. And then you had guys like what's the guy that played with the Steelers? Harrison. I can't think of his first name, but he was really good as well coming off the edge. Number 92 for the Steelers, and he wasn't big as well. He was a really strong player and good at bending the edge, good at using his hands, but he wasn't tall at all. He was actually pretty short for his size, but he was good at getting after the quarterback. So you don't have to be super tall or super long to be able to rush the passer. I think that's one of the misconceptions is that you have to have size. You have guys that are, you know, exception to the rules, like a Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett is only like barely 6 feet, barely 300 pounds, but Grady's one of those guys that's super strong, super powerful, similar to Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's not the biggest guy either. He's big as muscle wise, but he's not big weight wise. Aaron Donald is like 300 pounds, like barely 300 pounds. So but he's really strong for his size. So I really think that it comes down to mainly technique, strength, all of that stuff factors into being able to rush the passer. You don't necessarily have to be the tallest guy to rush the passer. And let's see here. Tony Wright says Tyler Vrabel will win the backup right tackle position over Jalen Mayfield. I don't know about that. He might, but I ain't heard nothing about Tyler Vrabel. I know he was on our roster, which he's the son of Mike Vrabel, the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, but I don't remember. I haven't heard a lot out of Tyler Vrabel, so I'm not too sure about that. Let's see here. But with that being said, man, I appreciate each and every one of you guys joining me, man. I've been on here for almost an hour. We've been going for about 58 minutes. So I'm going to get ready to get up off here, man. But I appreciate you guys joining this quick impromptu live. Like I said, man, I really think that this Falcons team is definitely going to do some big things this year. I definitely think we're going to be a playoff team. And this is the most excitement I've had in the last couple years. I mean, I always get excited when Falcons football is ramping up and football season is around the corner because NFL and NBA is like 1A, 1B to me as far as those are the two main sports that I watch consistently and I'm very knowledgeable about. But I definitely think this Falcons team is one of the deepest teams as I started out with, kind of talking about how deep this Falcons roster is. And this is probably, since I've been a fan, the deepest team that I can remember outside of the 2012 team and outside of the 2016 team that went to the Super Bowl. This probably is the deepest team. But with that being said, man, you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for your boy. I appreciate you guys joining. Johnson Claire, you enjoy your weekend as well, man. But with that being said, this been your boy Jew. I'll holler at you guys in the next video. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up, be blessed. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, man, y'all know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you'll know when I went live because I'm going to be doing a lot more impromptu videos where I can chat with you guys. And, hopefully we can do some call-in shows as well while I drop the link so you guys can join me as well and, hop on the screen and we can talk a little Falcons football. But with that being said, this been your boy Jew. I'll holler at you guys in the next video. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up, be blessed. Peace.